There we go.
Hi, everybody. It's Jill here with Illuminating Women, and we welcome you to one of our Friday Lunch and Learns that we're virtually doing during COVID, where we're all kind of still staying at home and staying safe. So I hear from a lot of you, your technology woes. I'm right there with you. And sometimes it's hair pulling and it's frustrating. And that's why I like to say, never fear, we've got Nicole here. I call her AKA Speed Dial because she's the technology coach you're not going to find anywhere else. She is we just love Nicole. She takes us down step by step by step so that you are empowered. And that's one of the things we love to do here in Illuminating Women is education we know is key and getting you empowered for your personal and professional growth. So today you will see on our Illuminating Women YouTube channel, you will find other videos from Nicole that's been teaching us lately about Zoom because so much of us are doing Zoom and like a lot of you, you'll get that new upgrade and you're going, well, now what? How are you doing this? And it can get really frustrating. And that's why we're doing pretty much part 3 with Nicole on Zoom and Zoom settings. And we are also going to be looking at asking some questions about Gmail. And we're going to ask from you too. If you have something you would like us to cover with Nicole, to reach out and we'll have her doing it on our YouTube channel. Otherwise, we cannot recommend enough reaching out to Nicole-Lux Ritchie. Her tagline is perfect. Do not let your technology bully you. So Nicole, thank you for teaching us today and taking time on this important day to teach us all these new upgrades and settings in Zoom.
All right, thank you, Jill. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to share with everybody the different fun little things with Zoom. I've been helping quite a few people get their Zoom. We do lots of practice sessions and trying things. And because of all of the changes with Zoom, every time they update something, settings get kind of re-defaulted to what Zoom has decided makes it more secure and more safe so that they can follow all the rules. Before the great everybody's on Zoom period in our life, Zoom's focus was making it easy to get on and off and do stuff in Zoom. And they got hit big time because of that. And they were declared unsecure and they were given all kinds of flack, which is really not fair because they've had a lot of security things already established, but they are all in the settings. And now those settings are set to default instead of being wide open and easy to use. So it's kind of like one of those things, the more secure something is, the harder it is to use. So we want to balance our security with our ease of use. And then we're going to talk about that today in our updates and settings. And I'm going to share my screen here. So this is our digital detangle with Zoom. Go ahead and raise your hand if you can see the screen. For those of you who are with me live, just make sure that you can see what I'm trying to show you. The first thing that we're going to talk about in Zoom is our Zoom updates. There we go. Zoom updates, then we're going to talk about settings. So first off, with the Zoom updates, like anything, these software, whether it's your main computer's updates or it's Zoom updates or other programs that you use, like your browser, doing those updates, that is important because that's how these programs keep you safe. They are keeping on top of all the different naughty things that people do on the internet, and they're building in those securities in their updates. So like if you're worried about viruses, make sure you're updating your computer because Windows and the Mac iOS, they work very, very hard to try to patch all those security holes to protect you from things like viruses. Same with Zoom and your browser, your Chrome browser, your Edge browser, Safari browser, Firefox, all of those, keeping those things up to date will protect you. We're talking about Zoom today, and so keeping up with your Zoom updates is going to protect you. I'm going to go through and show you just where the Zoom updates are and how you can find them. And then we're going to talk about Zoom settings. And the first thing that I want you to be aware of is there are about 4 different places for Zoom to hide their settings. There's those in meeting when you're the host, there's the in meeting while you're a participant. There's different settings that you can look at with the Zoom client, and there's different settings on your Zoom.us profile, and I'm going to demonstrate all of those. It's likely to be super boring, but bear with me, we will try to get through it. So let me go ahead, and I am going to use my test account. So this here is a, if you'll notice as you look at my shared screen, this is a PC computer here. So here we've got the PC computer's toolbar, and I am actually displaying this on a Mac. And so we have a Mac toolbar way up here outside of this Zoom window that I'm sharing with the other computer. I'm showing you this for a very good reason. First off, we're going to talk about just your regular computer updates. So if you want to make sure your computer is up to date and you're on a PC, you click this little jobber here and go to Settings. Scroll down near the bottom and you'll find your Windows Update and Security, and you can check your Windows Update here. This is super great. Do this thing if it tells you to do this thing. That will be the first step in keeping you safe. If you're on your Mac, you'll go into your little Mac windowy guy and about this Mac, and it'll pop up. There it is, this little guy, and you'll have your software updates here. And we're not going to actually do them because that I might have to reboot, and that would sort of defeat the purpose of this live webinar. So that's your main computer. Your next thing that you want to look at is your browser, because that is how you're surfing the internet. And so in this little corner of both Chrome, it'll be this way for Chrome, and it will be this way for Edge. You've got this upper corner. If you need an update, it'll have like a little green arrow or a little orange arrow or a little something here linking at you. And I believe Safari is the same way, but I'm not going to demonstrate Safari because this is actually a Zoom webinar. So now that we've got our primary other updates out of the way, let's talk about the Zoom update. For Zoom, they implemented a big update thing at the end of May and made it so that you can't even log on to Zoom if you're not properly updated. And so you probably, when you tried to sign on to a new Zoom meeting, it probably says you can't do this unless you update, so it forced you to do the thing. So if that happened to you and you're able to sign into Zoom meetings, yay, you're winning, you're up to date-ish. Zoom's going to continue to send out updates because they want to follow the rules. They want to be safe. And so for you to check to make sure that you do indeed have the latest update, and I would check this, maybe check this once a week or so. And then after things kind of die down, you might be able to get away with checking it once a month. Pay attention to any emails you get from Zoom, see if they need to update. And if you're opening Zoom and it says you need to update, do it. To proactively check on your updates, you hit your little profile face here in the Zoom client. And this guy down here, this little thing that you have installed in your computer, this is what it's talking about with Zoom Update. It's not talking about the web interface, and it's not really even talking about if you're logging in with your phone or your tablet, although those apps also need to be updated, and I think you do that in your app store. So this is what I'm calling the Zoom client. Most people will call it the Zoom client. Often if it's called the whatever client, it means it's downloaded as a program onto your computer. That's one of the terms that they use, and I'm going to use that here in this webinar. So we've got our Zoom client here, and we click on it and it opens this screen. Sometimes your Zoom client will look like this, where it'll just have these 4 little squares, and then sometimes it's wider. It might look different if you have if you're using a Chromebook. I think it's black in the background. But however it looks, look for your little profile face. And here we've got our Zoom updates. And you would click on that and you would follow its instructions. I'm not going to do it now because it's going to want me to sign off of Zoom and relaunch it, because that's how updates work. Just for a nice little path of what happens during an update, you click your go check for updates, and it will go to the internet and it'll say, hey, Zoom, you got anything new for me? And Zoom will be like, yeah, sure, here's this information, and it'll send it to you. Your next step will need to be to install that update. And so then you'll click the button, it'll go check for updates, and it'll come back and say, yeah, you got something. And there should be some sort of a button that says install, or it might say, this will install next time you reboot your computer. Whether it needs to reboot your computer, it'll let you know, but it will definitely want you to close your program, or it'll just close it for you and reopen it real quick. It might be so fast. I know Chrome, when they do their updates, it happens so fast you hardly even know that they closed your browser. So that's your proactive way of checking for these Zoom updates. So you check that. So I have nattered on a long time about Zoom updates. We're done with that. Do it. They're important. That's really all I have to say on that topic further. So the next thing, though, that I do want to share is our Zoom settings. Once you have done a new Zoom update, this is a fun thing that we've all discovered, to our great horror, I'm sure, is that once you've updated your Zoom, now all of a sudden all your settings are changed back to the way that they were before. In some cases, it's all completely defaulted, and you have to go in and reset your default to your personal room, or turn off that waiting room thing, or reset up your password. And sometimes when you do your updates, everything is just fine and all works the way your settings were. Regardless of how it's been behaving for you, knowing how to change your settings is super important, because you may decide as you host meetings, as you participate in meetings, that your personal preferences change. So let's go ahead, and we're going to start. I'm actually going to do, I think, the in meeting as host last. But we're going to talk about, first off, here we've got this interface. This is a Zoom client, or the Zoom client for my test account. And so Tessa here, she's got this all set up. You've got your home screen, which has your 4 buttons on new meeting, schedule a meeting, join a meeting. You also have meetings where it will show all the meetings that you have scheduled and upcoming, and then you have a contact list. In the home, on this home screen, you have your little gear symbol, which is the universal symbol for settings. It's probably my favorite little feature on programs. And this Zoom settings will bring all of these up. When you change settings here, but while you're not signed into a meeting, these settings should remain the default. They should remain the way that you have them, unless there's some weird Zoom update. So here we've got a variety of things, and go through and read them. I'm not going to tell you necessarily which ones you absolutely want to have, but I am going to point out some that trip people up. So here we're going to go to video. This is a fun one. Here, this little video screen, it shows you what you're seeing when you log on. So this little llama here, this is Tina, and she's my little test account. And so Tina is looking at herself on the screen as it will look when she signs onto a Zoom window. And here, there's a little button called Touch Up My Appearance. She can do that. It makes her look a little bit more beautiful. And if you do this while you're not signed into a meeting, it should stay that way, and you should remain beautiful as far as Zoom thinks. You can decide what you're going to want to do with your names. You're going to hide participants. You can rearrange these settings as you want to. I believe, let's scroll down here. We've got advanced. That's going to give you some more things that you can check in, and just, feel free to play with these things, but pay attention to what the defaults were, because Zoom does really try to keep the defaulted things to be the ones that you actually want to use. Next, we're going to look a little bit at audio. This audio will allow you to determine what microphone you want to use, because sometimes it's the microphone that came with your computer. Sometimes you plug one in, and sometimes you have one as a headset, and you can adjust those and test those there. See how this is moving? This means that Zoom can hear me talk. If this wasn't making this blue up and down, then that means that Zoom was not able to hear me talk. And if Zoom can hear me talk, then in theory, your participants and your other friends will be able to hear you talk. We've got share screen settings. That's another fun one, to read through those. Virtual background is something that a lot of people like. There are some computers that can do virtual background, and there are some computers that cannot do virtual background, and some computers can do virtual background better than others. If your computer is a high resolution one, you'll be able to do virtual background just fine. If your computer is not high level, it will tell you, you can't do this, your computer's not cool enough. In which case, you can say that you have a green screen and it will do it, but you'll look kind of funky. You'll look like you're coming out of the weeds or you're coming out of the San Francisco Bridge. It will look strange unless you actually have a green screen behind you. Because what this virtual background is trying to do is it's trying to recognize what's you and what's not you. So here, so looking at Tessa, I have a, here, it's trying to guess what's Tessa and what's not Tessa. So these ones here are relatively good. Tessa's computer is doing virtual reasonably well. Because her computer's reasonably well, if she clicks, I have a green screen, then it gets a little bit weird because it's expecting less clutter in the background. So that's just a little tidbit on backgrounds. I'm not going to, let's see, recordings. This is a thing that I've been continually tweaking and playing with. Recording settings, generally you want to set those up in the online profile, which I'll demonstrate in a bit. Oh, there was, I think that's all I'm going to do on this this screen of settings. The other screen of settings that is super important within the client is these little carrots here. So this new meeting, you've got, this will allow you to, you can start with your video, and down here will tell you what your default is when you hit the new meeting button. So when you hit when Tessa or Tina here hits the new meeting button, these are the settings that are going to start for her. And so notice here, we've got her personal meeting ID. She has already decided what she wants her password to be, and that's another setting. And then you can have advanced options. In your advanced options, you can turn on and off the waiting room. And this waiting room, this is probably the one that I see most often being turned on after it's been turned off. I personally don't like the waiting room. I find it annoying. I can turn it on and off once I've started my room. But if I turn it off here before I've started a meeting, then when I start new meetings, it should stay off. As long as I'm starting the new meetings from this client. If I start the new meeting from something else, then a different set of settings would be controlling that. Like if I'm starting that the meeting from the website that I'll demonstrate next. So I'm going to keep that. The other thing, if you have a paid account, you will have the option to toggle between your personal meeting ID or a random one, and that would be available. And so we're going to go ahead and save those. And I think schedule meeting. This is the other one here. When you're hitting schedule meeting, whatever's on this screen is going to be the default. So here we've got the personal meeting ID, and then we have the advanced options. See here, you could have the waiting room enabled for a scheduled meeting, but not enabled for a on-the-fly meeting. And a scheduled meeting is just simply one that has a date and time. The other thing that you can do is you can decide that all of your scheduled meetings should have a generate automatically, which would be a randomly generated meeting ID. And you can set a different password for that so that your personal would be a different than your randomly generated. And because I don't actually want to schedule a meeting right now, I'll hit cancel. but still, when I hit schedule, it stays. And it looks like I have to redo my password each time, so that's fun. But pay attention to those kinds of things. We're going to close this. So the next bit of password or of settings is on the profile, which runs a whole lot more things. We're going to click these settings again. We're going to go off to view more settings, and we can get super duper nerdy now. So I'm going to just close that and minimize this so that I can see the settings. And these are the settings that you can go and you can change these while you're in a meeting. You can do them at any time as you're logged, because you're logged into the browser, to your primary Zoom profile.
Nicole,
And
quick
here's Zoom.
question. Quick
Yeah.
question. I do see that right above there's it says new features. So is this where they will sometimes give you what you need to do to upgrade?
Yes. Yeah. So these is telling you that there's a notice that you need to upgrade. And you would to obey these meetings or to obey these notices, you're simply going to open your Zoom client, click on your little face, check for your updates. That's really what it's going to tell you. You can read all these things and memorize all this stuff and whatnot, or you can click the download page and it'll take you to that same update thing. So there are those, but we're going to talk about the settings in them. So in settings here, I'm going to X these out just because they're, bring my screen up higher, give us more room. Okay, so along this left side here, you've got more settings. And we're going to start at the bottom with primary settings for your meeting. And if we scroll down, there's a couple. Just kind of go through and see. They are, for the most part, self-explanatory. Here's where you've got your personal meeting ID. Here you can use your personal meeting ID when you actually schedule a meeting and when you do an instant meeting, or you can turn those off if you want. Here's also where you have the ability to set a password. So like if I were to set a password for scheduled meetings, I can set it in here. And it should translate across some of the platforms, but you're going to want to double check to see if it translates across the client. Go down here, this require passwords, not for the joint phone, where's the other one? Require a password when scheduling new meetings, that's set. Here it is, embed password invite for one click join. This one is a magical button, and you want to have that checked. That allows your people to not have to type in that password. Let's scroll down. Mute participants on entry. There's a bunch more fun little settings. One I want to share with, there's a couple that I want to share directly with those of you who are hosting Zoom meetings. So here you can determine that only you can host or anyone in your meeting can host. Now this setting you can have, depending on your ease of use, you can change within a meeting and it won't affect the default. But just be aware that if you're at host only and you want someone else to share in your meeting, you can have them share. This way you don't have to make them host for them to be allowed to share. And I'll show that once we get into the settings.
So Nicole, I have noticed that that's one of the changes Zoom has done, is that any meeting you join, you host. And I've noticed from other people who've hosted, and all of a sudden we want to screen share, and they have to go in right then and there, unless they come into settings and set it up beforehand, correct?
Yeah, yeah. If
Like
they go back here before they start their meeting and hit
right.
all participants, then their default will be all participants.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, these are the defaults. The other one, annotation, that I noticed, let's see here, we got our breakout rooms. The virtual background. Let's see if it's on this free version or if it's just the paid one. So here's the waiting room.
Yeah, one of the things I would like you to also show us, if possible, is how do we do breakout rooms? So if we want to have a meeting and we want to say, hey, you and you meet in this room privately, and you and you and you meet in that room, is that something you can also show us?
I can, probably not in this webinar because it's a different topic. Let's stay
Okay,
on the settings topic.
okay.
But
That
yeah,
would be
breakout
something.
rooms are super fun. So here's our waiting room. You can turn that on and off here as well. Waiting room is to me probably the biggest bugaboo. There's another one. Let's go for, okay. There's another setting in here, and I think you have to have the paid version. But there is a setting that says when someone logs in, do you want everyone to hear the ding, or do you as the host want to be the only one hearing the ding? And so for those of you who host meetings, I recommend you click that. And I think I could probably share that in my own Zoom settings. Let's see if I can do that real quick. Let's see here. That one, settings. We're going to settings within settings within settings. It's quite the. So here are my own personal Zoom settings. And I have a paid account. Ambassadors, mute, meeting, basic chat. There we go. So this here in a paid account, there is this magical setting. Sound notification when someone joins or leaves. Play the sound for everyone or play the sound for host and co-host. This one is a super fun one. It's, I believe, a new setting, and I'm very, very glad that it happened. All right, so let's go back to this one here, and now we're going to go into the settings when you're in an actual room. And so let's go ahead here, and I'm going to open this one, and we're going to create a new meeting for Tina. And this is something you can really do on your own. You don't have to have a buddy to practice some of these things. I have a bunch of test accounts, so I'm practicing my Zoom skills all the time. We're not going to join with audio right now, just for this demonstration. But if we wanted to join with different audio, Tina can test her speakers here. So let's say, yeah, we can hear it. That's fine. She can also go to audio settings and test them. But we're not going to worry about those. We're going to turn on the camera so that we can see Tessa's smiling face. Get this up so that we can see our controls. So across the bar here, we have settings, more settings. These little up arrows are how you get to the settings. So here we've got audio, you've got audio settings, video, you have video settings. Now watch this super fun thing. Video settings, I'm going to click it. It brings up this screen and goes straight to video, right? But you can also get to your audio settings, and you can get to your virtual background settings, and you can get to your recording settings. And while the meeting is playing, a lot of these settings that you change will only apply to the meeting you're in. So like here, I'm going to go on to participants, which is where that meeting room is. So under participants, this is where you can enable or disable that meeting room. This, you can play a sound when someone joins or leaves. You can, mute participants. You could do a lot of fun things while you're in the meeting for this initial particular meeting. The other thing for screen share is this is also where you would go in to decide whether or not one participant can share at a time, multiple participants can share simultaneously, or you can decide that only the host can share or everybody can share. So here we would go all participants. That way your speakers can share. And so that's within think that's the last. We've got our record on this computer. So those are all the settings that we have within Zoom. There's of course a ton more that we can take hours and hours and hours upon hours.
No, but I
about.
think the large take, this was excellent, Nicole, as always, because you just explained things so beautifully. I think one of the large takeaways, even for me, was going into our settings and doing those upgrades, because I will tell you, I ran into a snag just this week when I was part of the summit, and we could not get me on my computer. We got me on my phone once I upgraded. No, I mean, it was a nightmare for a lot of that to happen. And this was a huge aha. As always, we learned so much. I do want to schedule another Zoom call training with you to do the breakout rooms.
Breakout rooms are super fun.
Okay, well, we're going to schedule, that's going to be the next one. We'll just get that scheduled right away. And maybe we just do that, you know, with us. I don't know, because Karen and I were even talking about the importance of those breakout rooms. And we're going to be still doing this a while. So,
Right.
and the more we can empower ourselves, the better off we're going to be. So Nicole, if anybody wants to reach out to you, they can find you at Luxcentric. Is that right?
Yep, Luxcentric.com. And also I wanna add one more thing, and this is probably the most important thing because it's about troubleshooting.
Mm-hmm.
I see so many of my people get super duper flustered when something goes wrong. And so, you know, whether they can't get on or if things are glitchy or they can't hear, and there's a lot of franticness going on. And so I just want to share with you, stop, take a breath. And the settings, you can go to your people, hang on, I'm going to put my ears in. That's generally what I'll tell. That's usually what I'll say. Hold on, I got this. And like you said, Jill, if you can't get on, if it's fighting with you, turn it off, turn it back on and try again. If it's still fighting you, check your updates, turn it off, turn it back on. If it's still fighting you, turn the whole computer off and turn it back on. Yes, these things take time, but they don't take a ton of time, and they're totally doable to anybody. So yes, for further getting in touch with me, I have always done a free discovery session where I'm not really going to tell you about services. I'm going to just help you with a thing. And so I've been doing a lot of free Zoom calls where me and a new person will just play with Zoom. We'll talk about the Zoom settings and they can ask questions and they can see how I work. And so I offer that 30-minute free discovery session to anybody who wants it. And then I will share, this is how you get me on retainer, or through a subscription or on the fly one-on-one sort of thing. And again, that's at my website at luxcentric.com. That's LUXCENTRIC.com.
Oh, the best investment ever is just having you. So Nicole, I want to thank you and thank you for watching this, and check out the Illuminating Women. You can find us on illuminatingwomen.com, or you can also just this on the YouTube channel, see from the valuable content from the experts like Nicole-Lux Ritchie here, who we love and adore, and I AKA'd her speed dial, because I gotta have that on speed dial, because I'm one of those ready to throw the computer out the window.
Hey, yeah, don't do that. They don't like
do that, she says. And you know, and we've always joked, it's like you call Nicole and it's like, just tell me the scene here, you know. Yeah. So anyway, I want to thank you. We're going to chit chat a little bit more here and stay on, but just check in with us. If you want to empower your life or find a wonderful sisterhood and community, come to Illuminating Women and be empowered. So thank you so much for coming in. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right. Thank you.